Hello, welcome back once again to another episode from your favorite YouTube channel, Entertainment Rebooted. We're doing yet another episode of Cinema Revisited, The Evil Dead, where we are going to be talking about The Evil Dead 2, the good, the bad, the ugly, the iconic, and maybe what we would do with a modern audience. I am joined by probably the most handsome of all of my co-hosts, my own left hand. Say hi, left hand.
Hello!
All right, left hand, it's time. Let's talk about the plot, if you could, offhandedly.
Hey! You don't make soul hand jokes. I don't ask for souls. Remember the deal?
Yes, of course. I'm sorry, I forgot to keep it on hand.
Hey! No! No!
It's an awful pointed remark, sir. The plot, please?
No.
You know, I did not perform that ritual, give you sentience, and destroy my other two co-hosts in order to get ignored or talked over anymore. For once, I would like to have a co-host that respected my opinions.
Well, maybe you should give me more souls.
Well, maybe. I would if you were my right-hand man.
Hey! You don't bring up childhood trauma involving me for this debate. Goodbye.
Oh, shit. The comedy horror of the decade. The sequel to the ultimate experience in grueling terror. The Evil Dead 2. Welcome back to Entertainment Rebooted and yet another episode of everybody's second, third favorite series that we do.
We're there.
We're doing another episode of John Makes Pat Watch Horror Movies. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. We are continuing our series, Cinema Revisited, The Evil Dead, where we watch all of the Evil Dead movies. And then we talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and the iconic of this great series. And then we talk about some things that we may do for a modern audience should we have to make a new movie based off of the same premise. Of course, I am joined, I believe I've already said, but I will say again just because there's no limits on how many times I can introduce my co-host, the great and overpowered Pat.
Hello.
All right, Pat, we watched tonight The Evil Dead 2. Give us the plot summary if you could, kind sir.
So, similar to the first one, Ash is taking his girlfriend to a cabin in the woods for an away weekend. The cabin's abandoned, though, so they're not actually renting it, they're just squatting. Literally, they're squatting in a cabin in the woods.
Yeah, that he somehow knows about and knows will be abandoned.
Yes.
Which never really gets explained, and it also is never explained, like, the fact that this is labeled as The Evil Dead 2, but it does recap The Evil Dead without actually acknowledging that it already happened.
So
it's quirky.
They're having kind of an intimate moment. He's playing some piano and she's dancing in her underwear. I feel like that's part of a song.
Probably.
Yeah.
It's probably inspired many things.
Yeah.
Songs among them.
He then goes into the back room and finds a tape recorder with a translation of a book that a college professor found in the back rooms of a castle.
Which actually gets explained at the beginning of the movie this time. So we actually get we get like a flashback prior to the beginning of the movie. So we get like this whole thing that explains it's not the Necromonicon. It's like
It is the...
Is it the Necromonicon?
I think they call it the necro...
It's something necro. 'Cause
Yeah.
it is like a necromancy book.
The Necroomicon? The Necronomicon?
The book with the thing with the face.
The Facebook.
The Facebook.
Literal. The literal Facebook.
So we get like an introduction to that first, and then we do get this recap, and of course we have to have Ashley with his girlfriend.
Yes.
And he finds a tape recorder, although this time it's just on a desk. He
Yeah.
didn't go into the basement,
Yeah.
pull it out, and to decide,
This creepy basement had a recording. It's time for me to play it.
Yeah, this time it's just on the desk and she's like, there's a tape recorder. Play. And we hear the voice of the professor saying he found the book and he's come to this cabin in the woods with his wife so he can start translating it without being disturbed.
and then he proceeds to read it phonetically for the sake of the recording.
Yes.
Obviously not afraid of what the book itself says it will do.
Yes.
And of course we get the classic shot, the evil spirit flying through the woods
Smashes through the glass
and kidnaps his girlfriend.
and she gone. And Ash is like, oh. He runs into the room. Actually, he just walks into it casually, like, what up?
Well, I mean, he has more emotion than psychotic axe murderer from
Yeah.
the last one. What was his name? Mike?
Yeah, Mike was just like...
Was it Mike?
"Oof." It might have been Mike.
We're having a very hard time remembering things, probably just because of the complete and utter hilarious mind melt that this movie is.
Yes.
This movie, unlike the previous one, is actually a horror comedy, and it is glorious.
So magnificent.
Anyway, this is when the plot starts to deviate a little bit from the original book. Obviously, more logical reason why he would turn on a tape recorder, but then his girlfriend's taken out, and we get a very, very quick replay of essentially the events of the first movie. But
he
with just
runs
two
out
people.
to try to find her, and then she pops out of nowhere in the woods and startles him, so he falls backward. She's been full on possessed. Her eyes are white, and she's all...
with like fang teeth.
Yeah. She jumps at him, and he grabs a shovel and swings and decapitates her in one strike. Then he buries the body, but not the head.
I mean, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. All right, I've had enough of the body humor.
So he's just like, oh, dang, this is crazy. I'm getting out of here. So actually, no.
He barricades himself in for the night.
He gets
think.
attacked first. He gets attacked by a spirit that busts completely through the house.
That's true. He's chased by a spirit.
He is possessed temporarily, but then the sun comes up and drives the evil spirit out of him.
But he's still trapped in the woods because he tries to get into the car, gets chased by the spirit in the car.
Because the bridge is out again.
The bridge is out. And so he has to come back and he barricades himself.
Yes.
Meanwhile, we're introduced to two of the other characters in the book, the daughter of the original scientist and his associate professor.
Yes.
Who have just arrived from retrieving the rest of this ancient manuscript in order to bring it for translation.
Yes.
They are on their way, and while they're on their way, they run into a tow truck driver and his
wife, Bobby Joe.
Is it his wife or is it his girlfriend?
It's his wife.
Okay, his wife, Bobby Joe. And he tells them, well, I mean, we could go up there with you to this abandoned cabin, and we know a secret trail.
She makes a deal with him that if he carries her luggage, they'll go.
With this strange man that they just ran into in the middle of the night up a trail to an abandoned cabin.
And his wife that just randomly appeared on the hood of their car spitting tobacco.
And being very rude to them and creepy.
Yes.
We're already making good decisions, ladies and gentlemen. It's a horror movie.
Yep. Flashback. Ash is in the cabin. He's kind of starting to barricade himself in because he's getting a little freaked out. And, I mean, who wouldn't be?
I mean, he's been chased by spirits. He's had to decapitate his girlfriend, and he just had a nightmare.
Yeah, he had a terrible nightmare where his girlfriend's decapitated body came out of the ground and ballet danced, and then her head rolled over and reattached itself, and then she seductively danced at him.
And worst of all, she was claymation.
And she was super decayed already.
Yeah, which was so weird.
Yeah.
But then he wakes up and tries to look out the door. And he's grabbed by a decaying hand. Yes, he's grabbed by the girlfriend. The girlfriend reaches through the door and
she grabs
whapping him against
starts smashing him against the barricade to
Yeah.
try and get him out. She then stops and he stumbles back into the chair, sits down, and her head falls into his lap and bites his hand.
And he proceeds to flail and use the it's his left hand. So he's flailing and
around,
smashing the head into various objects around the
starts
house.
smashing her with a book, and then he remembers that there's a tool shed. He runs out to it and he clamps the head in a vise. And then he moves a curtain and there's an outline of a chainsaw on the wall. But then the decapitated body busts into the door with the chainsaw trying to cut Ash up. Ash somehow parries the chainsaw into the body.
Because he's a pro.
Yeah, pro chainsaw handler. He then takes the chainsaw after bisecting the decapitated body.
Well, yeah, he gets it to turn it in on itself, and then he slices it with the chainsaw.
Yeah, he cuts it in half by section.
Yeah. Pet, it is too late to have big words. My vocabulary has returned to that of an infant.
Goo goo galak goo goo goo.
Indubitably.
He then takes the chainsaw and cuts her head in half after the possessed demon tries to go back and be like, Ash, don't do this to me. You promised we'd be together forever.
Just me. You only liked me for my face anyway. No, she didn't say that, but
Yeah.
she could have.
So he cuts her head in half and then he takes the chainsaw inside with him, finds a shotgun, and just looks at the chainsaw, looks at the shotgun.
Well, no, that happens when it's attached.
No,
he
goes
had
back.
he had the full length until he had.
No,
it
he
attached.
just when he picks up the shotgun, he looks at both and then drops the chainsaw.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
Sorry.
You're everywhere, man.
This movie is everywhere, man.
It is.
It's been everywhere.
I've been everywhere, man. I've been everywhere.
We've already seduced DJ. No need to sing anymore.
They didn't need to know that.
They don't need to know a lot of things. If they're in this channel, they know.
So he takes the shotgun, loads it up, and goes back to the room. So he's kind of chilling in there. And then he kind of has a full-on... He's trying to look into a mirror and tell himself he's okay. But he starts choking himself. Because his left hand has turned evil.
And it's trying to possess him entirely.
It's trying to kill him.
And it's semi-sentient. And it's trying to mess with his head because it's still attached to him.
Yes.
It knocks him out. He falls on the ground. And then it proceeds to pull him towards a cleaver to kill him.
But right as it's about to get the cleaver, Ash wakes up and stabs it with another knife and just who's got the upper hand now? He then uses the chainsaw to amputate his own hand.
Yep.
And we flash back to the professor's daughter and them coming up the end of the trail.
Yep. Approaching the house finally.
Ash then tries to hide. Sorry. Ash then
Bless my son.
Thank you. Ash then tries to contain his evil amputated hand inside a trash can with a bunch of books on top of it.
And the top book says "Farewell to Arms." The top book was a "Farewell to Arms."
Yeah. Unfortunately, it wasn't heavy enough. So the hand gets out.
Well, it doesn't get out. It literally the entire bucket just moves rapidly.
He moves the entire bucket and then knocks it over and gets out. So Ash grabs the shotgun
and proceeds to try to hunt it down as it's running around
inside a bunch of mouse holes.
Yeah, and also trying to attack him too.
Yeah. And then it steps on a mouse trap.
True. After flipping him off.
Yeah. Oh, it's flipped.
Yeah, but it taunts him.
And
Like
then
it sits in the mouse hole as he's trying to like reload the shotgun, and then it flips him off, and then he gets trapped in the mouse trap. This movie has some like it is a horror comedy that 100%. And the comedy is gold.
Magnificent.
This movie's it's magnificent.
He ends up thinking that he shot it, but the walls start gushing black blood out at him.
Well, first it's red, right?
Yeah, red blood, and then it goes black and sucks itself back into the walls.
Just as the other people essentially get there.
So Ash hears somebody at the door, so he just turns and fires, and you hear a eep!
Sure.
So he goes up and he opens the door, and no one's there. He backs up, and then the tow truck driver just dives through the door and straight up tackles him.
And we get like a legitimate jump scare, which is kind of crazy because the way that the truck driver got him, he literally had to have seen him coming the entire time.
Yeah.
But we get a jump scare.
Yeah. But so then
the people come in, they think that he's crazy.
They think that they killed her father and mother. So they shove him in the basement
where the mother's body resurrects and starts coming after him.
So that he runs back up the stairs. She's like, "Hey, let me out of here! Let me out of here!" He's like, "Don't let him out of there." She's like, "Let him out of there." So they get him out, and then the mother starts grabbing the tow truck driver who pulled Ash up by his head.
As one does.
The associate
Proper
professor
lifting technique.
then runs over and tries to help him, and she grabs him and just throws him into the wall head first. And then Ash eventually like stabilizes himself, runs over, and starts slamming the door onto her.
And the tow truck driver recovers and joins him.
He stomps it so hard, one of her eyes shoots out and lands in Bobby Joe's mouth.
Perfectly.
Like, just straight into the mouth.
Hole in one.
They get the door secured, and then they're sitting around and is like, "We need to get out of here." And Ash is like, "No one's leaving this cabin until daylight."
Trust me.
And then you hear, "Hush, little baby, don't say a word.
Even more singing.
Mama's gonna buy you a barking bird."
And it's turned back into like the regular person, and it's using the classic thing where the evil spirit kind of can change forms multiple times. So it either has this like horrible, gruesome standard form, and then it has an even more gruesome, crazy form.
Yeah.
But then it can also turn back into like the regular human form to try to get people to do what it wants.
And the girl almost falls for it, but Ash stops her. But then the associate professor levitates into the air.
And
he's been turned.
He's been turned. He's horrific.
Oh, yeah.
And he starts attacking Urbana.
Yeah. And then Ash comes in with an axe and just smacks him down. And just green blood gushing everywhere.
That's right. The blood in that one was green.
The blood changes colors a lot.
The blood does change colors a lot. We had red, black, green, purple, and blue.
Yes.
It was purple coming out, but it was blue when it dried.
Yeah.
It was weird.
Yeah.
Speaking of weird, we're going to continue on. So Bobby Joe ends up getting like really beyond scared, runs out of the cabin around this time. And she gets a recreation from the first movie where the forest itself grabs her in like a bunch of vines and things like that.
Tangles her up everywhere.
It's called tree tie, and it's art.
So Ash and the professor's daughter are trying to use the
Or is
chapter
it hand tree?
tree tie.
Tree tie.
Yeah. Ash and the professor's daughter are trying to use the pages that she brought to summon the evil into a physical form that they can then cast into a time vortex to banish it. But the tow truck driver.
See, it is late. And you were making fun of me a moment ago.
Good, sir.
How does it feel?
Not good. Grabs the shotgun and she's like, "You know what? No, we're going to look for Bobby Joe." And Ash is like, "These pages are our only hope." he takes the pages and throws them into the basement with the mother, who is super possessed.
He's like, we ain't gonna go in there until we find my Baba Joe.
Looks like you don't got a choice now.
Oh, boy.
So he forces them all out into the woods. And they don't find Bobby Joe, but the tow truck driver gets possessed. Like, he knocks Ash down, knocks down the professor's daughter, and then he straight up just gets possessed. So they fight him off. They run. The professor's daughter runs back into the cabin. Ash has been possessed at this point again.
True.
Tow truck driver breaks possess. Oh, sorry. Tow truck driver doesn't get possessed. Ash gets possessed.
Attacks both of them.
Throws the tow truck driver.
That's what it is.
Into a tree head first.
This is like the fourth full-on
head
trauma he's experienced this film.
And somehow is still alive.
I mean, he had 5 brain cells.
Yes.
4 of them are dead.
Yes.
Rest in peace, brain cells.
R.I.P. She gets back inside, and she grabs the skeletal spine dagger off the thing to protect herself with, and she hears the back door going rattle, 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 rattle,
And then it bursts open, and she stabs.
and it's the tow truck driver.
And then while he's like stabbed and like, oh, I don't think I'm going to be okay. She's like, don't worry, you're going to be okay. Pulls it out.
She pushes smashes the door closed just in time to prevent Ash from getting inside.
I got ahead of myself.
Then she pulls him into the living room that they've been using as like their main safe haven where the hatch is. But she pulls him too close to the hatch, so her mom grabs him by the head, pulls him in, and
then she
just
proceeds
starts
to have
devouring him.
And then the girl has tug of war with his legs and his head while he's spewing
blood.
an ungodly amount of blood
Everywhere.
Like he's
Seas of blood.
seas. He is the Red Sea.
And eventually she lets go, and it just smashes closing your.
Yeah, it makes a gurgle.
Ash is busted inside at this point. He picks her up, throws her against the wall, but then he sees the necklace that he gave to his girlfriend.
And it breaks the curse.
And he's able to regain his humanity. But he falls unconscious, and he's waken up by the professor's daughter trying to chop him into pieces with the axe. And it takes like a solid minute for him to convince her that he's not possessed anymore.
Multiple tussles
Yeah.
where she tries to hit him with the axe, and she has awful aim.
Terrible aim.
Terrible aim.
So then they're like, our only way out is those pages.
So she starts reading them.
No, they have to go to the tool shed.
Oh, right.
They go to
I got ahead of myself again.
Yeah.
They go to the tool shed, and we get an epic moment where
They
of course,
make the chainsaw hand.
and then he gets the shotgun, and then he grabs the shotgun and turns it into a sawed-off shotgun.
With the chainsaw hand.
Because I got ahead of myself earlier on.
Yeah.
That's what I was referring to.
And then he flips it around, puts it on his back, and he says, groovy.
And then they proceed.
He proceeds to go into the basement.
Well, he proceeds to go to the basement. They proceed together
Yeah.
back to the house.
Yeah.
He gets into the basement and
Finds one page on the stair. Goes down past some hanging gourds and finds a door.
finds a bunch of pages inside next to the body, the very cleanly picked body of the tow truck driver.
Yeah. Finds the last 5 pages in that water there.
And then he heads up the rickety stairs. Would you be surprised?
Throws the papers up to the girl, and she starts reading it.
And would you be surprised that as Ash is making his way up the stairs, he gets grabbed from under them?
Well, hello there, sweetie! Pulls him, and he smashes down onto the ground.
And then she bursts up to fight off the girl from doing the ritual.
Yeah. And right as you think she's about to finish off her daughter, Ash heroically climbs out of the cellar and says, well, hello there. Actually, he says, you who?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
She turns and starts fighting Ash. Ash keeps trying to chainsaw hand her. But eventually, the daughter starts singing the lullaby that the mother is saying, which pauses the mother just enough for Ash to shove the chainsaw in through her sternum. which causes her to make her head go all...
And yeah, she proceeds to extend to maximum form.
Yeah.
And they have another tussle and fight. And that's when he gets another chop at her. And she starts spewing purple blood.
Chops off both her arms. Slices the head off. And then the trees start attacking the house.
Because she's already finished half the ritual in which she brought the evil to incarnation. To flesh.
Yeah.
And now she has to finish to send it into the space-time continuum.
You have to finish the ritual to open the portal in the space-time continuum.
She does that.
The monster then grabs his hand reappears though,
Ash's
and
hand.
Stabs her in the back with the dagger. How he got the dagger up there, we don't know. We don't want to question it. It happened.
And we also don't want to question why the main antagonist of this film is a sentient left hand.
Yes.
Those damn left
Ash
hands.
gets grabbed by a giant tree hand, though, and he starts getting pulled towards this massive face made of flesh and other people's faces.
And it starts declaring that it's won.
We've won! We've won! Victory!
And then they get pulled into the time warp again.
Because in her dying breath, she's finished the incantation. And Ash is just like, oh no, it's not closing.
And he gets...
Right into it.
Yep.
And he falls to the ground to get surrounded by a bunch of knights.
But as the knights are just about to kill him, a creature of evil swoops in.
And Ash stands up, grabs his boomstick, and goes, ba-bam! And then they're like, the hero to save us from this evil. And Ash is just
This hero from the sky.
no! No! No!
And then that's when the credits roll.
Yep.
And we had a lot of fun reading the credits just because we're a bunch of nerds and dorks.
Nerd!
Anyway, speaking of us being nerds, we like to not only just talk about the movies by giving you a brief recap if you haven't seen it yet,
That might
or
have
just
been
reliving
brief, sorry.
it. Oh, well, I mean, this is kind of the way that things go. Speaking of the way that things go, we like to talk about the good, the bad, the ugly, and the iconic of these movies, just for the sake of conversation. So, Pat, without further ado, what is good about The Evil Dead 2? Not
Modeling.
iconic, but good.
Modeling. Great modeling in this film.
Modeling's pretty solid, yeah.
Yeah. Great, good use of modeling and very, creepily used of modeling. Like, the claymation,
Yeah, the claymation is unsettling. So it's it is kind of dated, but at the same time, it works very, very well for how unsettling it is.
yes.
It's a good use of claymation.
Yep.
Mhm.
You're good?
I agree with you with the modeling and the claymation and things like that, the unsettling nature of these things. I think that it's a very good way to redo the first movie.
Yeah.
So the first movie is just kind of like a typical B version of a horror movie. It's just
Yeah.
a cheap horror film. But it is much more horror, less horror comedy.
Yeah.
This one is a good retelling of that kind of story and then having a lot of really good little bits of dark humor.
Yeah.
So I would say that this is a very good retelling of the first book added on with a much more fun second half.
Yes.
The second half of The Evil Dead does struggle quite a bit. It's kind of held together by the fact that it is just this over-the-top, gory horror film.
Yeah.
But this movie is good because I think it's actually superior to the original Evil Dead. How about bad?
His acting isn't as great as the first one.
That's true. Bruce Campbell does not have as much good acting moments as in the first one.
Yeah.
Probably because he knew this one was a comedy. So comedic acting is much different than
True.
I'm trying to be more serious, being the straight. He's not as much the straight man
Yeah.
as he was in the first one. The first one, he was the emotional lead, he was the main lead, and he was the straight man of the group.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would agree with you. The bad's Bruce Campbell's acting's not as good.
Not that it's on you, B Cam. It's not that good, this one.
I mean, we do know that he has amazing acting chops, considering in our other series that we do every other month, ReVisited, we watched Bubba Hotep, in which he played an immaculate Elvis Presley.
That fight's a
Undead mummy.
yeah.
Anyway, any other notes on bad? Like,
No, it's like it fits very well into the horror comedy. Like,
yeah.
it's very well played into it.
Yeah. A lot of the stuff that somebody could point out and say that, oh, that's really kind of bad. It is a comedy. It's not meant to be perfect. Huh. If I had to say something bad, I mean, yeah, Bruce Campbell's acting isn't as good, but different style, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I probably would say that I wasn't the biggest fan of the truck driver and his wife. They seem kind of odd and they're off-putting from the beginning. They're added and they do contribute to the movie later on, but their first introduction and some of their earlier interactions were just kind of odd. Like, why even bother bringing them along? Why would you go into this trail with people that you literally just met in the middle of the night?
Yeah.
On a trail you're not aware of, to a cabin you're not super familiar with.
Okay.
When they're already insulting you.
Yeah, I'll give you that.
Yeah, that's kind of bad, like the way that the characters meld at first. Okay, how about ugly? What is something that you're talking to somebody, they're thinking about watching The Evil Dead 2. What's something you would kind of like warn them about? Like, this is kind of the ugly thing.
It's not really an ugly thing, but just something to warn them about is it is very over the top gory.
That is true. Somebody who's kind of squeamish and isn't going to take it as kind of like the humorous over the top gore.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is not for the squeamish for sure.
No, like there's a lot of just body and like body horror.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of body horror, a lot of gore.
Lots of gore.
Yeah.
Lots of blood of multitudes of colors.
Yeah. At least none of it was milk.
Yeah.
That is a positive.
No milk blood this time.
milk blood.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see. What would I say is ugly about this one? Yeah, I mean, obviously, like, if you're kind of squeamish, the gore is going to be kind of over the top. This movie strives on dark humor. It is a horror comedy. It leans into a lot of horror elements. It leans into a lot of macabre things, and a lot of the humor is actually pretty dark. So if you don't appreciate dark, kind of twisted humor, you're really not going to enjoy this film. It is a horror comedy. Horror comes first.
Yes.
So if that is not your thing, if you just want a fun time and you just like comedies, Evil Dead 2, probably not your style.
Nah.
You have to have a bit of a twisted sense of humor.
Yeah. Just a little twist on it.
Little bit of it. Anyway, iconic.
You know what it is.
Let me guess. Bruce Campbell.
Chainsaw Hand.
We said the same thing. Chainsaw Hand? That's the iconic part. That's like, yes.
That is, anyone that knows Evil Dead knows the Chainsaw Hand.
It's true.
It is like, just, it is the essence of the show. It is that thing that she's like, no, that makes no sense to actually do it, but then they do it, and she's like, oh my god, I want that in everything. Chainsaw Hand.
It is pretty iconic. It is defining of the series.
Yes.
That's for sure. Chainsaw Hand. Yep. I would say that it's just a fun movie. The fact that this is a film that I can see why it's a cult classic.
Oh, yeah.
It is dumb. It is over the top, but it is so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
This is peak horror comedy. So if it's peak. It's not a parody like, like a scary movie.
No.
It's not a serious comedy parody like something like Scream. This is a humorous slapstick movie with a very clear, very, very dark horror theme.
Yes.
That's what's iconic about it. This is like a pinnacle horror comedy.
Yes.
So that's what I would say is iconic. All right, Pat, let's just say like a modern day equivalent. Like, so we can do kind of similar to how DJ and I do it on our other series with Mel Brooks, where it's just like if you had to make a film of a similar style, like what's the spirit behind it? Or we can do it where we're taking The Evil Dead and we're remaking it for a modern audience. Whichever way you want to take this.
Similar spirit.
Okay.
It really doesn't feel like a remake of this would work. Like, I don't think you'd be able to capture the same, like, soul and, like, just magic that this one had.
That's fair. Like, it's...
Like, if you try to update the effects and stuff, you're gonna lose it.
Right. It's like it was made in the perfect time. It's a timeless piece.
Yeah.
It's like Star Wars, the first Star Wars.
Yes.
Like, it was made in the time that it was, but because of it, it's timeless.
Yes.
If you try to remake it today, it becomes very soulless and like a cash grab. Like Episode 7, The Force Awakens.
Let's not dive into that. That's an
We're not
entirely
going to.
different thing of worms.
That is a completely different jar of worms, can of worms that we're not going to get into.
Yes.
Absolutely not. Yeah. Let's just say that I've been fighting DJ off with a stick about that.
Does he want to do a series?
We used to do a thing called Recast, and it was just us kind of talking about a topic and ranting. And DJ adamantly wants to do a podcast where he and I talk Star Wars because we're both huge Star Wars nerds, but we're kind of slightly different about it. So he and I have literally had 5-hour conversations about Star Wars and how we both feel about it.
Alrighty.
And so he wants to record it. And so, like I said, I fight him off tooth and nail with a stick to keep him from recording that episode.
Yeah.
So we're not going to do that. Unless you want that, put that in the comments. We will do it. If enough people want to see it.
Tell us what you want.
Yes, tell us what you want. We might even do a 3-person special. All three of us. We're all 3 Star Wars nerds.
It's been a while since I've watched them, but I do like it.
There you go.
Yeah.
Put that in the comments if you want that. Otherwise, let's see. If I... Remaking it, is there any further notes if you're remaking it for modern audience?
If anything, I would just change the... Instead of a tow truck driver blocking off the road, why not a sheriff?
Right, or even a construction
You
worker.
do a sheriff blocking off the road, and she's like, oh, I was heading there because my father and mother are there. And he's just like, well, we haven't heard about anyone being there. She's like, I know, we haven't heard anything from them. Is there any other way there? And she's like, well,
I know
there's
of
this,
one way, yeah.
Yeah, there's this back road. There's this back path that we can take to check on him.
Yeah, and she would be more invested in checking up on them because it's like, well, I haven't heard from them in a week, and I'm not aware of somebody actually being up there.
Yeah.
Shoot, we need to make sure that they're okay and they know how to get out.
And you can still do like the one partner runs off because it could be like the sheriff and
the deputy.
His deputy, and maybe the sheriff and the deputy, small town.
The kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Which could be interesting. That could be fun.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot. That makes a lot more sense than like random
tow truck driver and his wife.
Yeah.
Like, also, why would his wife be with him?
I mean, it gets awful lonely in them there hills.
Yeah, he's got enough trees out there.
Hey, man, not everybody's into tree tie. People don't appreciate art these days. Anyway. Any further notes, modern audience, or
no?
Yeah, you kind of hit like pretty much the spirit of it.
Yeah.
With this film being as timeless as it is, I mean, taking it, I'll take the opposite. So like what we do with the Mel Brooks ones, spirit, what would be a modern day equivalent spiritually of this. I think that the issue is that you would probably have to do something that's a little bit more gothic. Like gothic horror has kind of picked up quite a bit recently. So, you've had Miller's Girl and you've had some more atmospheric horror, some more like it's about not just the environment, it's about the implications of the things that aren't said. Miller's Girl, awful film in my opinion, but that kind of movie is becoming more prominent.
Okay.
So maybe taking something, because this one's more on the lines of, demon possession off of The Exorcist, and it has some things to do with like slashers and things like that, where it's over the top gore. So in the spirit of modern films for like a horror comedy, you would just have to, instead of doing like dark, gory, body, spirit possessing horror, you'd have to do something a bit more atmospheric, horror, gothic in nature, I think would be kind of how you take it. And you could definitely do things where it's more humor based, because there's a lot of things that you can reference. There's plenty of macabre things that are pretty funny and popular, but also just like popular goth culture, like Hot Topic, goth culture. You could definitely throw elements of that into it because it's a gothic horror. Yeah. But I think that maybe spiritually that would be kind of like the modern day equivalent, but I agree with you at the same time. Yeah. This film in and of itself is timeless. Yeah. I think that if I was, if I had teenagers and we were all trying to watch something for Halloween, I would probably throw this on just to be like, this isn't scary. It's stupid, but it's fun. Yeah. So it would probably be one of those films I would watch. Yeah. And it's timeless. I don't think it needs to be remade. Yeah. Speaking about things that need to be done, though, leaving a like if you liked this video. We really do appreciate your guys' feedback. Yes, we do. Either from likes, so that we know that you guys are enjoying these series, you're enjoying the things that we're talking about, or if you have the additional time, we really do appreciate your guys' comments, whether it's encouraging or even it's just suggestions. Yeah. Like, how do we make these videos better? What are things that you really like about these videos? What are things you don't necessarily like we can cut back on? Yeah.
Or give us the words from your brain for our brain.
Pretty much. Another thing, too, is that we are doing The Evil Dead every other month, but there's only 5 films of this series so far.
Oh, there's 5? Mm-hmm. See, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and
I only knew 3.
Yeah, there's 3 in the original one, and then we're doing the 2.
Oh, remakes. Okay.
So there's only 5, so this is a relatively short series, so by the end of the year, we will be done with it. Yep. So if you have suggestions, if you want us to continue on this theme of John makes Pat watch horror movies, we can continue with that. Yeah. Let us know a series that you think would be fun. We've thrown around ideas of like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Scream. We've thrown around those ideas, but if that's something that you'd be interested in, let us know. Or if there's another series that you would like Pat and I to talk about outside of Godzilla, we're totally open to it. Otherwise, do you have any closing thoughts, Pat?
Nope.
All right, then. We'll see you guys in the next video.
Bye-bye. Now, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more videos. Toodaloo! Excellent.